It's playoff time. Big stakes, bigger promotions. Every day of hockey's playoffs, DraftKings will have $20,000 in total prizes up for grabs. The best part, it's free to get your shot at these daily cash prizes. DraftKings will be offering 2 free-to-play pools every day of the NHL playoffs, offering players a free shot at $20,000 in total prizes.
Dang, I could use 20,000 right now. That sounds so nice right now. DraftKings free-to-play pools are easy to enter. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from a wide variety of free contests for an opportunity to win cash prizes. Cold hard cash, people. Money, cash money. All you have to do is answer a handful of questions around what you think is going to happen during that day's hockey games and track your results throughout the evening. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience.
So when you go out for steak at a strip club, you can make it rain too. Download the top-rated DraftKings app now and use promo code THPN when you sign up to get your free shot at $20,000 in total prizes. That's a lot of strip club steak every day of the hockey playoffs. That's right. Head to DraftKings Pools page to get your shot at huge cash prizes. That's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
I was walking through the halls of a Minnesota rink when along came a Wild fan who started talking smack to me. He said, I bet you never liked the Blues until they won a cup. And so I calmly turned to him and said, hey man, listen up. I admit it's pretty great to win Lord Stanley's prize, but listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues. I know Federico, Turnbull, Gilmore, Brown, Chattel, Bothwell, Babich, Maher, Mullen, Millen, Sutter, Pedersen, Pavasy, Curry, Zuckle, Uthart, Hunter, Schofield, Reed, Ramage, Kia, Dunlop, Wickenheiser, Crombie, Benning, Raglan, Ewan, Micheletti, Ramage, Romney, Kozlowski, Evans, Cavallini. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues.
And now, the starting lineup for your Bluenotes podcast. Tom Franklin and the man called Wags.
And yes, Wags is back this week. Hello and welcome to Bluenotes. Why am I so happy? We're located on the best city of the Mississippi, the best in the Midwest. We got that Stanley Cup power from 2 years ago, but not going to be this year. And if you're still clueless, we were talking about St. Louis. This is your home for sad Blues coverage on the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Tom Franklin.
Oh, baby! Oh, baby!
No, the Blues are not still alive. They're dead. It's over. It's done. You saw the title. Game over. God, Ken Wilson, go back to Hawaii. I'm Tom Franklin, joined by my counterpart, my longtime counterpart, Wags, and I haven't started drinking yet, but I suspect we're gonna start here once we get the show done. I think because that was bad.
It was. There's just really no words. You sit there and you watch it, and you go. Colorado's just a better team. They are. I can't disagree with it. They're just a better team, and the Blues just did not show up this series. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I think after we're all done here, it's gonna be a long, long night in front of the fire pit, just drowning my sorrows.
Blues Fan Reacts has some other engagements tonight, but he does want to let us know to end him at some, that is the mood he's in now. I mean, which I don't know if that's an improvement from after Game 3, because he literally did a video of him making an egg sandwich instead of talking about the game, which I don't blame him on. Really, I think we all saw this coming. We saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and I guess it feels like old times, Wags, because we're in a situation where if it weren't for Vladimir Tarasenko, we would have been shut out. Tarasenko with 2 goals tonight, and I was kind of starting to wonder as the series was going on. I was on Crunch Time with you Friday, and I watched him take like his first shot in like 2 games. With you during the recording of that episode, and I was beginning to wonder, what is Vladimir Tarasenko's future here in St. Louis? He scores 2 goals today. Looks like the only forward who gives a flip, about playing hockey today. Is Tarasenko still going to be a Blue next season?
Not for lack of trying, I don't think.
Yeah.
If you remember, I can't remember what year it was, but it was recently where the Blues were getting ready to finish up a series where they were going to lose. He hadn't done anything the entire series, and then he decides to score a couple goals. And that was exactly what today's game reminded me of. It was where he didn't show up for the first couple of games. And then the last one, he goes, oh, maybe, okay, now's the time. And he ends up pouting a couple of goals. But, the more I've been listening to sports radio and people just talking, if you remember, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I said, why not expose him to Seattle in the expansion draft? And now all of a sudden that's starting to pick up some steam. And it's not like Seattle's going to take him probably. A team, they're probably going to pass him up. He's got a lot of money to be paid, and they're not going to trade him. They're not going to actively do that. But if Seattle bites, I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, that's fine. We ran your course with us here, and you got your cup, and we thank you for it, but see you later. Bye.
Well, and there was some discussion I was having with some other Blues podcasters the other day. Actually, it was Joey Palazzolo, and we were talking about Tarasenko's future on Twitter. And, he's kind of the mind that it's not going to be it is going to be a messy exit one way or another, because this is Vladimir Tarasenko. His agent put those articles out there in the Russian papers, about him not being named captain. And, even if Seattle were to take him, that wouldn't be the end of it. I mean, because you're going to have a Tarasenko. Maybe he bounces back in Seattle because he's so pissed off at the Blues for casting him out, thinking that he's done, that it's over, and he's got something to prove now. And you know what? And if he does, more power to him. Because I don't think I have concerns about whether we're going to see the Tarasenko of old here in St. Louis. Maybe he needs a fire lit under him. Maybe he needs your idea of exposing him, even if he isn't picked, which, Seattle has $81.5 million to play with. They have to make over 30 picks, actually exactly 30 picks in this draft because Las Vegas is exempt. Bullshit. So they have, let's see, that's 30 picks, $81 million. That is roughly, about $2.6 million per player. And you are asking Seattle to take up $7.5 million in cap space on one of the biggest, if could maybes in hockey right now. He could be the player that he was, or he could be a shell of what he was, the player that we've seen from him the last, couple months since he has returned. So, it's going to be interesting what happens with Tarasenko. That is just one of many storylines to watch this offseason. But of course, Derek noting probably the most unsatisfying ending today, which is true. Without Tarasenko, it would have been even more embarrassing. Tarasenko is, by the way, Blues Fan Reacts points out Tarasenko is ineligible for the expansion draft. He didn't play enough games last year. That's an interesting point.
Yeah, so according to Cap Friendly, players with potential career-ending injuries who have missed the previous 60-plus consecutive games due to an injury do not meet the criteria set forth by the league in respect to the minimum exposure requirements for players, and in certain cases, these players may even be deemed as exempt from the expansion draft selection process. So I don't know if that sounds like possibly something that could be throwing a wrench in their plans, but I don't know.
But then again, it's like, what GM would have the courage to expose Tarasenko, even if he were able to? I mean, considering all he's done for this franchise and, and how much of an icon that he is, it would be a difficult move. But even still, say that opens up the other side of this argument, the one for exposing Tarasenko, and that is to protect a David Perron or an Oscar Sundqvist or an Ivan Barbashev, because those three are probably last on a lot of people's lists. You got 1 or 2 spots left. Those three would come up. So if he is ineligible, then hey, you get to protect another forward. Yay!
Why?
Exactly. I don't. I mean, you have to protect Perron at this point. I think Perron not being there for this series shows how important that he is.
Yeah.
Point per game player. He's a heart and soul guy. He's one of the. He's really good in the locker room. He keeps it very light, and he has proven his worth, as a St. Louis Blue. And even though he's getting up there in years, even though he's got 1 year left on his deal, you got to keep Perron, right?
He's going to retire at Blue. He has to. Yeah. I think that's the plan going forward. He is going to finish his career with the St. Louis Blues, and you do have to protect him because he is a guy that Seattle could look at. That is the veteran presence that Seattle will be looking for. Somebody with Cup pedigree, has been part of an expansion draft and has moved to a couple of different teams. So, yeah, Perron is a guy that you have to protect in this instance, and not because he's going to lead your team in scoring next year. I don't think that's going to be the case, but he did a lot for this team, and I would be shocked if they don't protect him.
Yeah, and as BFR points out, Tarasenko would have to be traded. Also, Tarasenko has a no trade clause, so that is a potential beehive that you're just going to whack with a stick a couple of times. It's one thing to expose them to the draft, and then you can tell them, oh, well, we're hoping that they pass you over, and you have a big contract hit, you're coming off a potentially career-ending injury. They may not see you as it's one thing to do that, but then it's another to say, hey, we don't think you're worth it anymore, and we're going to need you to waive that no trade clause, or we're going to send Luca Brasi here, and either your brains or your signature will be on this waiver. That's a little bit of a different tone, just a little bit. So, of course, one thing that Derek points out, we would be killing a penalty in the final minutes. Feel bad for Hoffman. It looked worse. I know you were still navigating traffic, but with 1:48 left, Hoffman goes off for a double minor for high sticking. It looked worse at the time. The replays show that it wasn't as bad, but still not the greatest play by Hoffman. And so let's go ahead and talk about the Blues offseason here. And, of course, number one, I mean, we got Tarasenko out of the way. Mike Hoffman, bye.
Yeah.
I would say so, yeah. I think that bridge probably burned before the trade deadline when he was being shopped around and he took the Blues off of his Twitter bio, and he just wasn't very happy. And then, injuries happened, and then, they kept him around. But if I were Mike Hoffman, I wouldn't come back.
No, he did enough. He did enough to garner some attention from other teams. He scored in the second half of the season. He was a guy essentially that carried this team for the second half and got them into the playoffs. And yeah, he didn't do much in the playoffs per se, but he did enough to get another contract. Some team is going to bring him in, and he's going to be a perfect fit for them. But I feel bad because I like his scoring ability, but like you said, the bridge was burned. He's not going to fit in with this team. And honestly, this team needs a huge, huge makeover.
It does.
For the longest time, I've been a guy that thinks, okay, yeah, team first, roll 4 lines, everybody contributes. I'm done with that. They need a superstar, and they need to find one.
Jack Eichel?
No, I don't think he can be a superstar.
You see, I'm with you on that. He screams of a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Very Good.
Yep.
But he's not going to be a superstar, maybe at the level of a Brendan Shanahan. Shanahan was very Hall of Very Good, not a Hall, in my opinion, not a Hall of Famer. So I'm kind of with you on that. I don't know where else where do you find that superstar though?
You find a way to get Matthew Tkachuk here.
That's an interesting option. One that I kind of posed the other night on Twitter. people are thinking that the Blues aren't tough enough, or they need a proven goal scorer that isn't named David Perron. People that miss Keith Kachuk. Here's a guy that can give you everything.
He goes to the front of the net.
He goes to the front of the net. He is not afraid of anyone. I mean, ask any Edmonton Oilers fan; they'll tell you Kachuk is not afraid of anyone, and he's a Kachuk. I mean, it would be. He's from here, and he's a legit superstar. He's a restricted free agent, so maybe you either threaten an offer sheet or just to get them talking. Maybe that's what you do. That would be a guy that would shake up this team a lot and shake them a lot up a lot for the better. And especially if Schwartz isn't coming back, which. I get the feeling he's going to want to at least test the market this offseason just to see what's out there. I mean, he's, you don't get a lot of opportunities, when you're, a good forward in the NHL to, see what do other teams think of you? What can you get? I mean, Schwartz has his cup, okay. He's been a great ambassador for St. Louis, but he is a smaller version of the Pietrangelo problem, in that Pietrangelo got his cup. He's a bona fide superstar. He needed a team to give him that great deal to basically see him out for the rest of his career. And Vegas bit, and that was during a COVID year. This year, the cap's staying the same. I don't know if Jaden Schwartz gets a lot more than he makes now. That's the thing. And I don't know if the Blues are going to be willing to give him a raise, at least initially. So he might test the waters, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone gives him even north of 5. I don't want to say that, to disparage Jaden Schwartz, but he does tend to disappear on you a little bit. And he's a guy that you just kind of want. He leaves you wanting more. At least with me, anyway. He always leaves me wanting more. And it's like, what could we do with an actual superstar in his spot? Maybe that's the Matthew Kachuk. But you seem to think as well, maybe it's time to move on from Schwartz.
I think it's going to be a huge surprise when Jaden Schwartz re-signs with the Blues for less money than he's making this year, because no other team wants to touch him. I'm going to go out on that limb. I don't think teams think very much of Jaden Schwartz because he's a guy that has an injury history.
Yeah.
He's wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
Like you said, he disappears at times. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody's. Look at the season he had this year. Do you even remember Jaden Schwartz really playing on this team? And I'm not trying to say I like Jaden Schwartz. I really do. I want him to be on this team, but I don't think teams look at him and go, yeah, I think we could pay him $5.5 million to come in and be a cog in our team. I'm going to be very surprised if a team goes anywhere near him.
I'm left kind of like Marvin the Martian, where's the kaboom? Where's the bigger shattering kaboom? That was basically Jaden Schwartz this year. There was just no kaboom from him. 40 regular season games out of a possible 56, 8 goals, 13 assists this year for 21 points. He was off his pace. Like the year before he had 71, he played in 71 games, which was the entire season. That was because remember, it was cut short because of COVID. So he actually did play a full season, 22 goals, 35 assists for 57 points, 57 points in 71 games. That's pretty good. And that gets you some consideration for maybe a nice pay bump this offseason when you go into free agency. 8 goals and 13 assists in 40 games does not. So I am going to be interested to see if this is going to be another hometown discount situation, because Jaden Schwartz has been a part of this organization for so long. He was drafted in 2010 that at this point, this is pretty much, he's almost made this his hometown.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I'm with you though. If he does test the waters, he's going to be very disappointed. I think he's going to be very disappointed. Teams are still not in a position where they're going to splash the cash like they did in previous free agencies. Like when Jeff Finger gets $5 million a season. Those times have come and gone, I think. And this is a proven guy. And I think there's going to be better options out there this free agency. So I think he is definitely gone for sure. So that's 2 guys that we think we're probably going to get their walking papers here between Jaden Schwartz and Mike Hoffman. So looking at the forward group, I mean, we talked about Tarasenko and how he's probably going to hang around. Tyler Bozak is an unrestricted free agent. Do you think he comes back?
I think he might. I really do. It depends on who's looking and what they're looking for. I mean, you saw the success that Pat Maroon had in going down to Tampa Bay. Is there another team out there that looks at themselves and goes, we're a third line veteran center away from being a Tampa Bay or St. Louis Blues in 2019? I mean, you could look at a place like Pittsburgh, potentially. That's a place that he might go to. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, maybe back to Toronto. I don't know if that's something in his wheelhouse that he would want to go to, but I could see him returning to St. Louis. He enjoys playing here from everything I've heard. Yes, he hasn't had the greatest of seasons, but he's been consistent when he's not been hurt. And really getting hurt this year wasn't his fault. That was just fucking Mark Stone. And just don't even get me started on that one. I think if he would have played the entire 56 game schedule, I think he would have been pleasantly surprised with what he would have done this year. And I think he's another guy that can mentor a guy like Robert Thomas, who seemed to play really well with Bozak and Maroon. And the last year or so, he's kind of been growing. And don't get me started on these people that are sitting here telling everybody, oh, we got to get rid of Thomas. We got to get rid of Thomas. The dude's like 21 years old.
Yeah.
He was in the league at 18. What you expect him to just shoot right up? He's going to have a little bit of a regression.
And none of the injuries were really his fault either. I mean, that's just, part and parcel of the game. I think it's way too early to give up on Robert Thomas. Yeah. I mean, I understand the salivation over maybe using him as a key cog to get an Eichel or to get Chuck or get someone that is, an upper echelon player, but it's like he could be that guy in a few years himself. Yeah. If with no more injuries and the right development. No, you're not trading away Robert Thomas. Don't do that. Don't be stupid. One thing I'll point out with Tyler Bozak is that he was one of the better Blues forwards this playoffs. He had a goal, he had an assist, he was just a -1 coming into today's game, and today he had a shot right at Grubauer's doorstep in the first period, and he was going to the net. He was one of the few forwards that I could point to and say, well, this guy wasn't a problem. He really wasn't. And, he's a solid, as you said, solid veteran guy, good locker room guy, plays a strong two-way game. Mostly, in fact, he probably leans more defensive, now than anything, kind of like a Rick Mahar type, I guess. And he's not worth $5 million anymore. I think we can all agree on that. But if he wants to come back on like a $2.5 to $3 million deal, come back. I think he provides a good service to this team, especially on a team that's without Alex Steen, which, I think we all, as the season went on, kind of started to realize what we were missing out on. Not just Steen, but Bouwmeester. And you can say the same thing about Petro. I think that there was going to be some sort of drop off there, but losing Petro, Bouwmeester, and Steen, and then losing a guy like Oscar Sundqvist early in the season as well. I mean, a lot of these like heart and soul kind of guys are gone, and three of them aren't coming back. And Sundqvist, we're not even sure he's going to come back the same kind of player he is. I think he will, but you just never know. We should have expected a little bit of a transition year this year. I think we actually probably should have been happy with what we got, because we had questions about Jordan Binnington coming into this year. We had a new captain in Ryan O'Reilly. We had a new defender in Torrey Krug. We weren't sure what we were going to get out of Justin Falk after last year. So there were a ton of questions around this team. And I almost feel like we got a little ahead of ourselves. And we're like, this team's going to be great. Blah, 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 blah. But we had a boatload of questions to start the season. Yeah. I think we had a few of them answered, but I think we should be at least a little bit grateful that we got as far as we did. I think so as well. We were still fourth in the division. Arizona looked, like decent foes at times, and we did play Colorado well in the regular season. We played Minnesota very well in the regular season. Just Vegas is going to be an issue going forward, but guess what? Not in our division anymore.
Yeah.
So they can they can go do their own thing now. So yeah, it could have been worse. It could have been worse this year. I think with all the injuries that they had, it was kind of, we forget this team was in really dire straits. I mean, we had Sam Annis and Dakota Joshua on this team playing serious minutes. We had Mitch Reinke playing serious minutes in the playoffs. I mean, that's just, it's you don't want to make excuses, but it's just like reality was this team was not at full strength either here in the playoffs or during key stretches of the season. And that's just a fact. Getting back to the forwards conversation here. So Bozak, we'd like him to stay if he takes the cheap deal. Hoffman and Schwartz, might be waving goodbye to them. Zachary Sanford, he is a restricted free agent. I think I'm almost at the point with Zach Sanford that you give Seattle a little something to take him in the expansion draft. I'm almost at that point. They might take him anyway, because I was talking about that with Mason on this show last week, and 6'4", 210-pound forwards who can score 15 and 20 goals per year don't grow on trees. And he doesn't make a ton of money. He makes $1.5 million. That might be enticing for a team like Seattle. And in fact, compare him to some of the players that might be available for them to choose. I mean, they're going to be looking at probably, they might be looking at Oscar Sundqvist, who, hey, this guy is very injury prone and he's got a contract with term. Probably don't want to touch that. Sammy Blais, all he does is hit. Vince Dunn, I mean, that's probably the other attractive option for Seattle at this point. And he's up and down. I keep hearing weird things out of St. Louis. I mean, Zach Sanford might be the guy for Seattle. And you know what? I say, let me help you pack your bags. Let me help pack your bags. And I think you're just as done with Sanford as I am.
Yeah, I'm definitely done with him. He did phenomenal in that Stanley Cup run. He was really one of the key guys on that run, especially against Boston. He stepped up big time. He got his cup. Love it. But I was talking with somebody the other night. He's just a little bit smoother Patrick Berglund. And
essentially,
like, what have we gotten out of that? I mean, we got Ryan O'Reilly out of it. Thank you very much. You're not going to get the same thing for trading him to Seattle if that's the case, or
no, but
enticing Seattle to get there.
Maybe you keep Barbashev. Maybe they don't take Barbashev instead. Just that's the value in having Sanford going to Seattle. But
if you don't need to protect Vladimir Tarasenko, all of a sudden you can protect Ivan Barbashev. So,
but he'd be an option.
He probably would. But I mean, everything I continue to see that Seattle's not going to take a forward from the Blues. They're gonna probably take Vince Dunn. I don't see how that's something that's going to even come up, because everywhere that I've seen it feels like Vince Dunn's the guy. Puck moving defenseman, good contract, restricted free agent, arbitration eligible. I mean, I think that's the case. I almost feel like we don't have to worry about any of our forwards. And I know that's really bad thinking, but I mean, we make the point, Oscar Sundqvist, he'll probably be exposed because he's injured, and teams usually don't take an injured forward unless it's a superstar potentially. Ivan Barbashev could possibly be protected, and Vladimir Tarasenko doesn't have to be protected. So there's that as well. There's a lot of intricacies that go into it that, a guy like Sanford might be able to be exposed where it's either Sanford or Dunn, and they're probably going to go with Dunn. So, I mean, I get your point. I mean, if the Blues do have to just maybe entice Seattle to take him, I would be okay with that. I just don't see how he fits in this team going forward if they don't.
Agreed. He was definitely one of the issues this year for the Blues. His inconsistent play. He just tends to have these mental lapses with the puck. He makes too many turnovers, and he's just for a guy his size, as you said, he's kind of a more refined Patrick Berglund in that he's still soft. Incredibly soft. And I mean, every now and then he'll lay someone out, and then you'll say, well, yeah, there's a Zach Sanford that we've been waiting for. And then he goes back, to being, his, mentally frail self. So yeah, I'm kind of done with the Zachary Sanford experiment. Let's see. Barbashev's restricted free agent. He's coming back. Robert Thomas, he's not being traded. Let's stop with the Robert Thomas trade rumors. They're not happening. It's not happening at all. Defense, of course, I mean, you're pretty much married to Justin Falk and Torrey Krug, no matter what. Nor did either one play bad enough to even merit consideration for getting moved. I mean, Krug got a lot of flack this year, and the thing with Krug got some flack in Boston as well. Like he sometimes drove Bruins fans nuts just because he would have the occasional lapse here or there. And I feel, just kind of looking at Krug this year, I mean, no, he didn't score goals, but I mean, he's primarily a puck mover. He's not a big shot like Justin Falk is anyway. I feel that Krug for the most part came as advertised. I mean, don't you?
I think so too. And you have to also look at the fact that Justin Falk had an issue getting started here in St. Louis last year. And I could feel the same thing for Krug. He'll be an improvement next year. And like you said, he had momentary defensive lapses in Boston. I don't think I've ever watched a game this year where I go, oh man, that was Krug's fault. You never really heard his name being called out defensively. Now, once again, sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but there was never anything really super egregious about Torrey Krug's play. So, yeah, maybe is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to his contract? I don't know, but it feels like the team has surrounded him and embraced him and brought him into this. So they like playing with him.
Yeah.
So you can't sit there like, I don't think they liked playing with Mike Hoffman. I think they like playing with Torrey Krug. So that's another piece that you have to add into it. And then there's the other guy that I think is kind of an elephant in the room, because he's not due up next year or this coming year, but he'll be due up the year after. What do you do with Colton Parayko? Do you sell high on Colton Parayko right now?
Ooh, I wasn't even prepared to talk about Colton Parayko, because I don't think you're selling high on him now.
That's true,
because he's coming off back surgery, and since he's come back, he has not been the same Colton Parayko. At times he's looked like he is, but he looked very tentative in the first few games when he came back. And at least on one of the goals tonight, I felt he could have been a little bit more maybe on the puck, if you will, instead of playing on his heels and kind of playing tentative. That's a good question with Colton Parayko, and it kind of leads into the discussion of just the Blues defense in general, because there's a lot of things that could happen with this Blues defense this offseason. Like, for one, Vince Dunn maybe going to Seattle,
yep,
or maybe he gets traded one way or the other. I don't think Vince Dunn's coming back, and that opinion has not really changed as the season's gone on. He's a restricted free agent, for one. The performance from him just felt lacking this year. I mean, he still ended up with 20 points in 43 games, which isn't bad, but he was a -8, and we all know about his mental lapses on defense. I mean, it's just it's going to be tough. If he makes it to the Blues training camp next year, I'm going to be shocked. Put it that way. I think and you don't get rid of a Dunn just because of his shortcomings. You get rid of a Dunn because you have guys like Scotty Prunovich who are ready to basically take his spot. You have Niko Mikkola, who showed himself to be a capable NHL defenseman. I feel at least a bottom pairing defenseman. Yep. Jake Wallman, I flipped on an opinion on Jake Wallman. I didn't like him at first. I thought he looked very awkward on defense. Suggested maybe he should have been a forward because of his offensive skill set. But he really came along and won me over as the season went on, and I think he deserves another chance next year. But we're talking about a lot of guys here, and it's like, okay, you only have so many spots. Yes, Dunn's probably going to be gone. Gunnarsson, he might retire, honestly. I mean, he's 35 and made of glass. So, I mean, I think it's just time for him. I mean, I loved Gunnar when he was on the team. Boom, boom, Gunnarsson getting the goal in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final against Boston. That was an incredible moment. The pisser goal. But look, if you're a Blues fan, Gunnarsson just can't stay on the ice. He just can't. And so, and with this injury, I think he's done. And Bortuzzo's got one more year left. I mean, beyond that, does he have a future here? I don't know. Another guy I wonder about his position on the team, Marco Scandella. He did not impress me, really. He looked okay. He looked okay, but okay at 3.275 mil for the next couple of years. I wondered. I think the Blues might look to move him. Especially if they're trying to, shake up the identity of the team and, maybe not give, Binnington so much to do every single game, which is, again, it's not Binnington's fault. Okay. It's, the numbers that he had, any goals that he allowed during the playoffs, for instance, this team makes Binnington work so hard. It is like the opposite of the Blues that we know, which is, back when they went on a cup run, they were really great at limiting opponents' shots. Yep. They, routinely Binnington may have had 20, 25 shots a game max. Game one of the freaking Stanley Cup playoffs, he's facing 50. That's just you can't have that.
Feels like we're in Toronto.
It does feel like we're in Toronto, and it's like, okay, why are we doing this? Why? What's the issue here on defense? And I think, I think, and maybe it's just a microcosm of the whole problem with the team itself. The team seems to have gone into a more speed game. At least with the roster. The roster makeup seems to be more speed, more rush, and Berube's not about that. Berube's a grinded out, kind of a, rough and tumble, that's the way he was as a player. That's also the way he likes, his team to be made up. I wonder, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I wonder what's Craig Berube's future in St. Louis. I don't think it's necessarily his fault per se, but it does kind of feels a little bit like how I felt when Andy Murray's last days were here, when Ken Hitchcock's last days were here. It feels like this team's getting away from him a little bit. And it's going in one direction, and then he's always going to go into the other direction. I hesitate to say this, but is Berube on the hot seat?
I think so. I think he is, and honestly, in this instance, and I think this instance alone, because you talk about Andy Murray, you talk about Ken Hitchcock, in those instances, the team did not want to play for him anymore. They did not want to play for Andy Murray. They did not want to play for Ken Hitchcock. I truly, 100% in my heart, believe that the players on this team want to play for Craig Berube. I think that is 100% the case. I don't think it's a lack of a sake of losing the team. I think it's coming down for higher up. I think Doug Armstrong has a mindset of where this team's going. You talk about this team wanting to go more to a rush speed game. Well, if you're going to do that, you got to actually have players that have speed. You got Jordan Kyrou and you got Robert Thomas. Who else has speed? Vladimir Tarasenko doesn't have speed anymore. Ryan O'Reilly's not fast. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't have speed. So if you're going to play that kind of game, you have to have the players that will be able to play it. And they don't. They're still built in the mold of a grinded out, tight checking, move as a 5-man unit team. But now they're being dictated to play a rush game. So you're losing. You have that disconnect between the defenders and the forwards. The defenders are staying back. The forwards are going. But your defenders can't get the puck out of the zone to make an outlet pass to save their lives. So the entire system is flawed. So, and I'll say this. Maybe it's just a microcosm of what happened this year. It was a 2-week training camp, okay? 2 weeks. They didn't get the normal training camp. They didn't get the normal conditioning. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, because they actually did have a little bit, pretty much the same amount of time off as they do in a normal regular season. Just everything shifted. But I think if you get them back to a normal training camp where they can start to build their system again, maybe this team doesn't have to change as much. They just have to go back to what got them to where they were at. And I think a full training camp might allow them to do that.
It's very possible. It's very possible that may be part of the issue here, and just the lack of cohesiveness that we saw during the season. Because at times this team looked very lost in the season, and we all like to see Berube and his lines during this point where he just basically like throwing darts at a wall and seeing what sticks. But sometimes you got to do that when your team isn't clicking, when your forward lines aren't clicking. You need to throw the proverbial spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. So you just wonder if maybe Doug Armstrong takes a look at this team and says, you know what, rush isn't going to work for this team at all. We need to get back to basics. Let's start getting him, getting my coach, my Stanley Cup winning coach, the proper tools. But that's still going to lead to a lot of change this offseason, I think. I think there's going to be a lot of change in one way, shape, or another. And I'm really interested to see who the new guys are next season, because I think there's going to be a few new guys on this team this year. And of course, they literally just got bounced from the playoffs, so it's too early to speculate on who they could even target. Although I do like the Matt Tkachuk idea. I really do like the Matt Tkachuk idea. Derek points out Dump and Chase with endless cycling did absolutely nothing this series. And against a sophisticated team like the Avs, it's not going to work. It is not going to work.
When you get outshot 2, sometimes 3-1.
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, even when you look at Colorado, and I was talking to my dad about this the other night, like Colorado, it's not like Colorado is just putting a bunch of high quality shots on net. They're putting everything at the net, because in hockey, you never know what's going to happen. A bad bounce here, a deflection there. You just got to put pucks on net. And it seems like the Blues, and especially in this series, were looking for the perfect shot. And that's not going to do it. And that's why Colorado ended up winning this series, because they took shots whenever they could. They looked for rebounds. They looked for deflections. They looked for guys in front of the net. The Blues were skating around, looking for the perfect pass or the perfect shot. No one going to the front of the net for the most part. It was a contrast of styles, and you saw what worked and what didn't. And the Blues never adjusted.
They never did. So we'll see those adjustments, I think this offseason for sure. Defensively, I think really, Falk and Krug are probably the only ones that can be assured that they're safe coming back. Mikkola and Wallman, Wallman's got another year on his deal. Mikkola's got another year on his deal. They'll probably be back as well to fill the, those bottom roles. It's that middle that you wonder about. You wonder about Parayko's future, because he does have 1 year left, and he's got so many question marks with this back injury. I thought Marco Scandella was very underwhelming. I wonder if they shop him this offseason, maybe do an old hockey trade where they find a forward that some team doesn't want, and they just do the old change of scenery type of a move. And no, Derek, we can't get Robbie Fabry back. I don't know. I still don't want Robbie Fabry.
No, we got Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah, we have Kyrou. We're gonna be fine, and we're gonna have a full season of Costin next year.
Yep.
So that's gonna be nice. But although we didn't get to see Costin in the playoffs,
surprised a little bit
for reasons, but we got to see Zach Sanford. Yeah.
I don't know. I understood not playing Costin in the first couple of games because he'd only played in 2 with the Blues, and yes, he had the experience of playing over in the KHL and winning a championship there, but the KHL is a lot different than the NHL and the NHL playoffs. Now, the fact that he didn't get into even today's game, that did surprise me a little bit. That you got to think at some point you're desperate. You got to make a change. You got to put some sort of spark in this team, and getting a guy into the lineup that could provide that spark was a bit surprising. But maybe it's just Craig Berube going, look, I'm going to go with what I've got. You're going to see exactly why I can't win, and you're either going to make the change or we're going to be in this same thing for the next so odd number of years.
Well, we were kind of stretching out that segment a little bit so we can get our buddy Blues Fan Reacts on, and I can tell he's excited.
Is he awake?
Talk Blues hockey.
No, not awake. I did have a meeting today, but I said, screw it, not in the mood. Just drove home. No.
That's fair.
Not in the mood. Nope.
Did you at least make an egg sandwich?
I did not. I haven't done that yet. I literally just ran into my room not 10 seconds ago.
Dedication, folks. More dedication. More dedicated than most Blues forwards during the series against the Avs.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you guys were talking about. Well, I was listening to it in the car, and I heard you guys talking about is Berube in the hot seat. I heard you talking about that. And
what do you think?
Right now, it could be, and I'm not even sure if I can properly word this. Maybe it's just because emotions are running high right now. Obviously, everyone's so bummed out right now.
Right.
I've been pretty vocal on my channel, on my Twitter, on everything that I think Berube is the right fit for this team. The players, like Wag said, Yeah, like Wag said, the players want to play for him. It's not like Ken Hitchcock where the players were just like totally turned off and didn't want to play for him. But one thing that we can all agree on is he's a very stubborn coach.
Mm-hmm.
He coaches one way and one way specifically, and if you don't fit that, then you're basically fucked in the system. That's why Mike Hoffman took so long to, finally find his grip.
And then you're off because Detroit like Fabry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and that's why it took, so long for a lot of players to find their swing. That's why it took Torrey Krug a little bit to finally look a little more comfortable. And for the last back half of the season, I really gave Berube the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, he knows what he's doing. He's won a championship. He knows the core value of the group is still the same as it was in 2019.
Yeah.
But going into the offseason, there's going to be a lot of changes.
Yes.
And I mean a lot of changes. I bet this is going to be one of the most crazy off seasons in Blues history. There are so many decisions that need to be made. I mean, just Bozak, I know, is gone for sure, for starters. I know Gunnarson's not playing another. Yeah, I think he's gone. I think Schwartz is gone, because if Schwartz was sticking around, he would have been signed already. There's lots of players that are going to be gone, but there's also lots of players that might come in. You just never know. The team that so because of that, what we can all agree on is the team next season is going to be very, very different from the team this season. I can almost guarantee you it's not going to be a Craig Berube team. It's not going to be a grinding team. It's going to be a completely different shakeup.
Yeah.
Can Craig Berube coach that team? Will Craig Berube be flexible enough to coach next season's team? Next season's team that will possibly have a Gabe Landeskog on it. Who really knows? He's not sticking around Colorado. That's not happening. If Colorado, like, it's the same thing with Schwartz. If Colorado wanted him, they would have signed him by now. This is a team that could have Dougie Hamilton on it. Neither of those two guys are really grinding forwards. They're not the Craig Berube type of players. So the makeup next season is not going to be the Craig Berube style. So will Craig Berube keep trying to beat his style into the players like he did this season, which I think I can attribute to how bad we sucked this year. Frankly, we sucked this year. We really did. This was a very disappointing year. I'm not happy whatsoever. And that's because I think now that I look at it retrospectively, and like I said, it could be because emotions are running high right now, but maybe that's because Craig Berube is trying to coach him the wrong way. He was trying to coach him his way and his way only. And the players were like, that's just not how we are anymore. That's not our core anymore. Maybe that's a factor into it. And maybe he's going to do the same thing next season, and it's going to be even more brutal. I'm expecting next season to be a full season, a full 82 games.
Oh, yeah.
That is going to be a miserable 82 games if this is how we're going to play. If Craig Berube is going to keep coaching them like he specifically wants.
Yeah, he might get a couple of months to coach that way, and when it fails, then that he might be shown the door for a coach that does coach that way. Because we talked about this, I think, a few episodes ago. When you're in a situation where it's the coach or the GM's going to win 9 times out of 10.
90% of the time the GM's going to win. But like
Scotty Bowman, Craig Berube is not.
My concern as well next season is I can definitely see that happening. I can see Craig Berube trying for the first 3 months, it not working, he being showed the door. We're all going to be sick of him. The players are probably going to be sick of him because he's being stubborn, and that's what, the GM's going to notice, and that's why the GM's going to fire him.
Yeah.
The person taking Craig Berube's spot is inevitably going to be Jim Montgomery. I do not like that. Jim Montgomery is a great guy. He was a great coach in Dallas. All right. Yeah. He's a great guy. I'm so glad that he's an assistant coach on this team. He brought kind of a, I don't think the Blues failure this season is attributed to, budding different philosophies of the coaches. But I think, Montgomery brought almost a level of speed to this team that we haven't seen in a while. There are some moments where we saw the Blues at times could run over the opponent and just, flat out chose not to for some reason, but I don't think he's a good head coach. I don't think he can head coach this team properly. I don't.
he had a really good. I mean, Montgomery had a really good college record. He did very well, and I mean, before he got sacked in Dallas for his personal issues, I thought he had that team running pretty good. But I haven't seen enough from him, just as an assistant to really give me a lot of confidence. I mean, for one, he's filling in some big shoes because Mark Savard had that power play and that offense running, like an absolute, freaking mint condition Cadillac. And the team obviously suffered without Savard, and Montgomery clearly was not the answer. So maybe it is best that we hold off on the Jim Montgomery era at least for a little while. By the way, we talked about forwards earlier, Mason, and Derek asked a question: do we still want Schwartz? Because Wags and I kind of agreed that I can't get excited about him. I don't think he gets a raise. I don't think he deserves a raise. He can't stay on the ice. He's a good player, but I just can't get thrilled about him anymore.
And I get that. And we could have probably had Steen's contract have ended last year. We probably would have, said the same thing that we're saying about Schwartz. Like, we just can't really get excited about him. What is he really contributing?
Yeah.
Like on the ice. My argument is this. I think Schwartz is a key player that we need to re-sign. I think so. And not necessarily for his on-ice production, but for the, same things that Alex Steen did. How many players in that locker room right now do the young guys really look up to right now? I can name 2. I can name Justin Falk. I can name Vladimir Tarasenko. Right now,
that's about it.
They don't really have a leader per se to look up to, a veteran presence. Braden Chen comes close, but I don't think I think he's still too young to be really given that role.
I think O'Reilly's still kind of growing.
Oh yeah, O'Reilly too. O'Reilly. Yeah. Duh. But I don't know. I'm just thinking. I mean, Schwartz. Like, flat out, Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou have both said that Jaden Schwartz is one of their main mentors in the room now, and he's one of the guys that they respect. But let's look at last season and the season before. We've lost Alex Pietrangelo.
Yep.
Born leader. We've lost Alexander Steen to injury. Born leader. And we saw that fourth line and third line just weren't good anymore without him. They flat out were not the same. They didn't have that speed. They didn't have that desire on the ice that they did with Alex Steen. They lost Jay Bouwmeester. And I don't know how many locker room stories you've heard of Jay Bouwmeester, but he's one of those, like, the most quiet guys in the locker room, but when he speaks, everyone shuts up like that. Yeah. Everybody cuts it. And people listen to him. And you could see, like, when he was presented his, like, ring, the Olympic ring, or the gold ring, or whatever he was given, because he won, like, a Olympics gold and IHF gold and the Stanley Cup, yeah. Big 3, yeah. But once he came up and accepted that reward, everyone was so happy for him. And then the moment he started talking, place went dead silent. So maybe it's not just
really hears him. Maybe no one really heard him talk ever. So
probably. But, like, I think we've all. I mean, I know Wags and me have both definitely played with a guy like that in the locker room that doesn't speak much, but when he speaks, you listen. He has that respect and he plays to that respect. He was the workhorse of he was the workhorse of the organization. We've lost too much leadership, and it showed because when at times the Blues looked like a midget team, completely unorganized, didn't know what the fuck they were doing in their own zone. Binnington was about the only player that seemed to want to win this series. I can't even make an argument for Ryan O'Reilly. He just didn't look comfortable. He didn't look comfortable in his leadership role in the playoffs. He was just fine in the regular season. First half was shaky, but it's his first time actually captaining a team. Later in the season, I saw him get it together a little bit. In the playoffs, flat out was not a leader. He wasn't. Not that I saw. I wasn't hearing, tweets from Lou Korak or anybody like that, or Jim Thomas saying O'Reilly is staying extra to help the younger guys skate. He's attending these optional practices and helping the rookies, really hone their game. I haven't seen that. That's like captaincy 101. You want to get the respect of the locker room. and you want to be confident. I mean, at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the series, he said we're gonna beat these guys. We're gonna beat these guys, and everyone was harping on him like, oh no, you're not. It's Colorado. I'm like, what did you want your captain to say?
Yeah.
Did you want him to say, oh, we're gonna get killed? No. Of course he's gonna say that. He didn't back it up. Oh, when Binnington said we're coming, he backed it up. O'Reilly didn't.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah, I can't argue against him. He was like a -6 in the series. He only had the one goal.
We've lost too much leadership. We can't lose Schwartz. That's my argument. That's my only argument.
And see, if you were able to catch it earlier, I said I don't think any other team's going to touch him. I think he's coming back to the Blues at a discounted rate because there aren't going to be teams that are going to be interested in him because he is an off-injured player. He's a guy that disappears a lot. And I guess that makes sense that Kyrou and Thomas would look up to him because they kind of disappeared a little bit this year too. So, I mean...
No, Kyrou got cocky and Thomas got injured, so...
Yeah, the league figured out Kyrou, and then
figured out Kyrou quick. Yeah,
Thomas just kept getting hurt. But again, and by the way, do you agree? Can we stop with the trade Thomas talks here? That
those exist.
Oh yeah,
there are people suggesting that we need to trade Thomas for like a superstar, and have him be like the key piece. And I'm like, he's going to be one of those guys in a few years. So the fuck, yeah,
that was stupid. No,
yeah, exactly.
Stupid. Exactly. I want to bet with somebody. I'm not going to say who to save them embarrassment, but I made a bet at the beginning of the season with a friend of mine. I said,
"Gesundheit."
Excuse me. I made a bet saying, okay, which player would have a higher points per game at the end of the season, Robert Thomas or Kotkaniemi? And Robert Thomas beat him by 0.001. Of a point. It was next to nothing. So
there you go. Winner.
No, I don't see any Habs fans talking about trading Kotkaniemi. Why did you trade Robert Thomas? Robert Thomas. Our bottom six is fucked next year. They are fucked. We are not going to have a good fourth line anymore. We won't be able to roll four lines. We're going to have to go back to the normal 2015 Chicago Blackhawks kind of style where we're very top heavy. That's what it's going to be. Kind of just like the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. We're going to have to be top heavy, but we're going to be a discount Toronto Maple Leafs because at least the Toronto Maple Leafs top six actually show up every single night.
And I was going to say that that works for Toronto. That worked for Chicago back then. I mean, nothing wrong with that if it works. But yeah,
we need to salvage as much of the bottom six as we can, and Robert Thomas is a key piece of that. So,
and can we all agree that changes need to be made on defense?
Yes.
I mean,
God, yes.
Falk and Kruger safe.
Yes.
Everyone else, I mean, I think Wallman played well as the season went on.
Fine.
He grew on me. I think he's fine. I think Mikkola is going to be there as well. I mean, as a bottom pairing guy. But we were talking earlier. I think they shopped Marco Scandella this offseason. He did not wow me at any point this season. I mean, he just didn't do it for me. And at 3.2 mil,
that's a lot. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, it was good at the time of signing but I mean, compared to the last 3 years of Scandella's career, he's just been god awful. And then ever since he got to the Blues, he's had a stride in his step that we haven't seen from him in a while. Is it worth $3 million? No. Is it worth sticking around? Maybe shopping around? No, because I know maybe not next season, but the season after, I think he's just going to get too old. I don't think it's going to be worth it anymore. So I would be totally open to shopping him.
And the elephant in the room, with 1 year left on his deal, what do you do with Colton Parayko?
Let him wait out his contract. See what happens next year. Because I mean, after he got home from after he finally returned from his back injury, I thought he looked great. I thought he was one of the better defensemen, to be perfectly honest, for this entire playoffs. He picked
it up a little bit, but
he picked it up. He wasn't how he was, but
I still thought he was too tentative at times. I thought he was still very tentative at times. Yeah. Maybe it's the back injury, and as you know, Mason, you're a different person when your back is working fine versus when it's not. So, you got a point. And of course, I definitely say don't trade him this offseason because you're not getting max value for him. I mean, that's just
I think you get more value from him than people think, but I still don't think that, Colton Parayko's not a guy you want to shop.
I think you have
unless
to wait.
You absolutely have to. Yeah.
You have to wait until you see what you have in Scott Perunovich, because he's going to be coming off of injury as well. And yes, there's high hopes for him, but you really don't know how he's going to fit into the NHL. And if he turns out to be, I don't want to say it, but if he turns out to be a bust, at least you know what you've got in a guy like Colton Parayko. So as much as I think that there's going to be a lot of talk around him this offseason, I think he will be with the Blues at least for the first half. And if Scott Perunovich comes on and just blows everybody out of the water, maybe by the time the deadline rolls around, you're looking at it and going, we might be able to get something really, really good to help us out. But at the very least, you're talking trade deadline more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think Scotty P is going to get his chance because Vince Dunn's gone. Yep. In one way, shape, or form, whether it's Seattle or traded. I just don't see him coming back.
I'd rather see him traded.
And that could still happen. It wouldn't shock me if they did that just to, maybe, so they don't have to even worry about the expansion draft with him, just so that, that way you get something back for him at the very least, and hope that Seattle takes Sanford, maybe. I'm almost at the point with Sanford. We were talking about this earlier. I'm almost at the point where, I almost want to give Seattle something so they take Sanford off of us.
I said that, 3 episodes ago? I said I'd be willing to shop a second-round pick to get Sanford out of here. I'd be willing. I would, because what's the other alternative?
I don't think it would take Seattle. I think if we offered Seattle a third to take Sanford, I think they'd jump all over it.
They jump over a third, yeah. I think
we don't have a second round pick in this upcoming draft anyway. So
it'd have to be a third
season after, whatever. Potato.
But yeah, I mean, I think Seattle would look at a guy like Sanford and say, hey, he's 26 years old, he's 6'4", he's a 15 to 20 goal scorer. Never mind those other issues. I mean, where are we going to find that in the expansion draft? That isn't going to cost at least $5 million. This guy's a restricted free agent. Probably won't ask much more than what he's making now. So
that's all. He's already an enticing player as it is, just looking at his statistics. But I think if Seattle does half of the scouting job that Vegas did, then they're not touching Sanford. So
and if you're going to give all those positive points, the fact that he's not going to cost a lot, he is a restricted free agent, he does all that. Why would you even have to entice a Seattle to take him? If those are all the positive points you're trying to put across, why do you even have to offer something for Seattle to take him? That's the other piece of it.
Yeah.
They could just sit there and go, yeah, we like 6'4", 15 to 20 goal scorers that cost us $1.5 million, and he's a restricted free agent. There's no need for us to trade a pick to have them take him off our hands.
That's true. Well, it'll be an off-season of change for the Blues this year. It also will be an off-season of change for us here at Bluenotes as well. Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., we will have an announcement on the future of this podcast and what we will be doing going forward. And to ensure that you watch, we are also going to air an interview that Wags, myself, and Scott Tobin of Crunch Time will be doing with former St. Louis Blue Lubo Spartechko. We're going to record that tomorrow night. We'll play it for you on Bluenotes Tuesday at 6:30, along with our announcement as to our future. I will say this: don't expect the three of us together for a little while. Let's just put it that way. We're going to take a little bit of a break this off season and prepare for what's to come. So I think I have teased this enough. So, but Tuesday night, 6:30. Yes, it's a special night because it's a special announcement, and you get to see Lulos Bartechko again. So, if nothing else, I mean, tune in for that. So, but we have one final piece of business to take care of here, and that would be the Bare Knuckle Blues brackets. We are going to wrap this puppy up today. And to do that, let's go ahead and pop it up on the screen here. So as you can see, we are down to our final rounds of the tournament. Both Mason and myself have been picking the winners for the first 2 rounds. We are down to our final 8 in this tournament here. Our matchups today, and we will crown a winner of this whole thing today. Vladimir Tarasenko versus Klim Kostin, the Battle of Russia. Will be our first matchup today. Then we have Dakila Joshua against a healthy Alex Steen. We have Vince Dunn taking on the old warhorse Kyle Clifford, and Robert Bortuzzo, who may be the favorite in this thing still, taking on Torrey Krug, who is, I feel that's a bit of an upset for him to be here at this point of the tournament.
He beat up a goalie.
Well, that's true. That's true. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to our first matchup here. Vladimir Tarasenko taking on Klim Kostin, the Battle of Russia. And let's go ahead and get our notes up of the tail of the tape between these two. Vladimir Tarasenko, he has 3 NHL fights. He has a 3-0 hockey fights record. 388 hits and 531 NHL games. He is 6 foot, 225 pounds. Taking on Klim Kostin, who has yet to fight in the NHL regular season. He did have one preseason fight in 2018. He has a 4-0 AHL record, and he is 6'3", 212 pounds. So I'm going with the young bull, Klim Kostin, in this one. I think he's got the size, and he has got that special little extra level of hate in him that I don't think Tarasenko has. First, let's go to Wags on this, because this is your first time chiming in on the Bare Knuckle Blues bracket. This whole thing was your idea, so.
It kind of was. I'm sorry I missed out the first 2 rounds, but I'm totally in agreement with you on Klim Kostin being the guy that moves on in this. He has the reach, he has the size, he has the youth, and he has that part of his game in him. You know, when he was first with the Blues, we were sitting there going, oh yeah, this guy's going to be a top 6 scoring forward. We're going to love him. He's going to be another Vladimir Tarasenko. Well, his career has kind of taken a different turn, and he's definitely embraced that physical side of the game. You know, you watch him play over in the KHL, and he was a guy that would think hit first, score second. And that's just kind of how he's been. And I saw the fight in 2018 in that preseason, and that got me so excited about Klim Kostin's future, because he went out there. I think he even scored a goal in that game too. I think it was against Dallas. Right. He had a goal, and then he had to fight. And I was like, okay, this guy has it. He can score, and he's willing to drop the gloves. Yeah, totally. And then you also throw in the fact that Tarasenko has 3 shoulder surgeries as well. But I can't put much behind those punches, so I'm definitely going with Kostin in this one.
And Mason, you agree?
Yeah, I agree on Kostin there. I mean, I know both players played in the KHL, but Russia, Klim Kostin played in Russia the quickest, the most recent. So I think that has a factor. He played in Russia, and it's freaking Russia. You know, those guys are tough sons of bitches. So yeah, you got to go with Kostin on this one for sure.
And you got to love the fact that Kostin has beaten 3 pillars of the 2010 2010s St. Louis Blues in Jaden Schwartz, Braden Shen, and Vladimir Tarasenko to get to this point.
The upset king, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, Shen, you know, as we talked about, Shen's got, I think, like 25 NHL fights now. I mean, you forget that he's a guy that loves to drop the gloves. So
yeah.
He just happened to run into an absolute different beast in Klim Kostin. So he goes on. He goes on to the semis, and he will take on the winner of Dakota Joshua and Alex Steen. Joshua has 1 fight. He beat up Coleslaw in Vegas earlier this year. He also got into a scuffle, but I don't think you can call that a fight just recently. He beat up Dennis Gilbert last year in the minors. He has 2 juniors fights. He averages almost 2 hits per game in the NHL. He's 6'2", 199 pounds, and he has no problem knocking Ryan Reeves on his ass. And he is taking on Alex Steen, who might be the most unlikely, honestly, between him. I feel Krug has more leg to stand on to be at this point than Alex Steen. 2 NHL fights, a 1-1 record. Steen averaged about a half a hit per game. He was not a physical player. He's 6 foot, 211 pounds, and he is brittle. So, at least at this stage of his career. So, this one is probably going to be Tequila. Wags, you agree?
I have to agree. I wanted to sit here and be like, no, but Steen's a veteran. He's gonna like make this guy work really hard and then just duck and land a punch. No, it's Tequila. It's Joshua. He's going to move on. It's all about the youth at this point right now. That's another piece that goes into it. But even back in Steen's heyday, he was never a physical player, and he didn't drop the gloves as much as you would think he would have. Honestly, the thing that sold it for me was that Ryan Reeves hit. He knew who Ryan Reeves was, and he still laid the hit on him and took the fight after that. And Reeves even gave him props for that. He skated past him. He's like, yeah, dude, nice job. So when you get props from Ryan Reeves,
that's respect.
I think he's got it.
Yeah, definitely. So the killer beats up Steen, Mason.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I know that Alex Steen has hit Ryan Reeves many a times, and how many times has he knocked him absolutely on his ass and then taken a fight for it? Never. Yeah, Dakota Joshua has that kind of swagger. Has that swagger about him where, he's going to ride this high, and he is going to, he's just not going to lose. It's flat out. He's going to have this high of, oh my God, I'm the fucking man. And then now this like old Alex Steen comes in with the cane and a walker, and then he's just pop, and then that's it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing the killer on the fourth line next year.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say he's definitely going to be a staple for the Blues.
He should be. He's
absolutely. He deserves it.
He definitely has. All right, next fight is going to be Vince Dunn versus Kyle Clifford. This is probably our first interesting one of the round because Vince Dunn, he only has 2 NHL fights. He's got a 1-1 record. He has fought 3 times in the AHL, 4 times in the juniors. 6 foot, 203 pounds. Very scrappy. Very, very scrappy. He's taking on Kyle Clifford, the veteran of 96 NHL fights. And I don't even know the record. It's just too many fights to count. He also has over 1,500 hits in over 700 games. He averages about 2 hits per game, a little over that. He is 6'2", 211 pounds. So he has a 2-inch advantage on Dunn and about 8 pounds on Dunn as well. So, Wags, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Dunn or Clifford?
Upset alert. I'm going with Vince Dunn in this one, and not just because not just because he's young. I just feel like you said it. He's a scrappy player. He's scrappy. He's not going to just lay down and take it. The dude fought in the tunnel at a game. Like he took it off the ice and punched a guy and knocked him out. So, I mean, as much as I respect Kyle Clifford and all of that, even the fights that he got in this year, you look at Clifford and it just wasn't like the Clifford that you remember back in LA. Mm-hmm. So with that included, even though he's got the reach and the size on him, I think Vince Dunn's a guy that can get into him and lay a couple in the chops and knock him out. So I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with Vince Dunn in this one.
I'm inclined to agree with Wags, actually. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think Dunn pulls off an upside here, because I was thinking, just way ahead. I'm like, oh, it's totally going to be a Clifford. It's basically whoever wins the Clifford Boards fight. And I'm like, actually, he's got to get through Vince Dunn first. On the way there, he's got to get through Vince Dunn. And like we said, Vince Dunn will fight you anywhere. He will fight you literally anywhere. He does not care. I don't care if he's not motivated to fight, if he's trying to do something and then you pissing him off, hitting him with your stick or whatever. He's gonna be like, all right, that's it. Pop! And then he's just gonna be dead. It's gonna be I think that, lack of a better term, I think Vince Dunn's got the retard strength to totally annihilate Kyle Clifford. Okay, I think so.
I was watching Kyle Clifford today, against the Avs, and as I was watching him, it's like this is not the same Kyle Clifford that got the majority. Mm-hmm. He got the most of those fights in his first 5 years, but he's not a guy that to me strikes fear in opponents anymore. You don't have to keep your head on a swivel because oh shit, Kyle Clifford's coming. He doesn't seem like that guy anymore, and Vince Dunn, on the other hand, as you said, he's got that little extra something. I guess I'll call it that. I'll go with Vince Dunn in the upset. I will go with Vince Dunn. It's an upset for sure. But I think he's capable of pulling it off. Clifford's just not the same beast that he was before.
Yeah, well, okay. One more thing to add is as we just finished the last round, right when we were done with the episode, I looked at videos of each of these guys fighting. I looked at them, and Kyle Clifford's old, like 2014, 2015, 2016. He had a lot of power in his punches.
Yeah.
Recent Kyle Clifford has been more grab and shake and maybe throw a punch every once in a while, but even those punches haven't been like haymakers per se. So that's kind of why, that's also the reason why I'm more inclined to believe Vince Dunn, because Vince Dunn will punch you. He doesn't do the whole like twist around, like kind of like what Ryan Reeves does. He kind of like twists around his opponent to intimidate him. Vince Dunn doesn't. He just goes right for the jugular and just bashes your teeth in, and he doesn't care. So Kyle Clifford kind of has been later on in his career, which is totally understandable. Later in his career, he's been more kind of stepping back as he fights, and he's kind of waiting for the opponent to make the first move. Vince Dunn makes the first move. So.
Definitely. I agree with that 100%. So that leads us to our final matchup of this round. It is Robert Bortuzzo against Torrey Krug. Bortuzzo, he of 29 NHL fights, 14, 11, and 4 record. He averages about 1.3 hits per game, and he is 6'4", 216 pounds. A decided size advantage over Torrey Krug, who does have 12 NHL fights. He has a 4, 5, and 3 record. He averages about 0.8 hits per game, so not quite a hit per game. He is 5'9", 186 pounds. Reputations aside, you have a 6'4", 216 pound guy fighting a 5'9", 186 pound guy. I don't care if Torrey Krug has the power of Rocky Balboa in him. He's not going to have a good time against Bortuzzo, in my opinion. I say Bortuzzo, and this one's not particularly close. Wags, what do you think?
One fight is all that you need to know about, and it's not even a fight that happened in an NHL game. Robert Bortuzzo fought and punched our way to the Stanley Cup when he knocked Sanford on his ass.
That's the whole reason for this tournament.
All you needed was that's the one fight you have to know about. When a guy is willing to beat his own teammate up to get his fire lit under their ass, that shows toughness right there. It's Bortuzzo all the way.
And Mason, I think I heard you're laughing, so I'm assuming you're in agreement here.
Why would I willingly put myself up on a cross and say Torrey Krug? Why would I ever do that?
Because you're insane.
I am insane, but not for that reason.
Short people. That's about
I would prefer not to be crucified. I'm gonna agree with you guys. I'm gonna say, yeah, Robert Bortuzzo. What's gonna end up happening in this fight is Torrey Krug is gonna walk in. He's this little guy, and then Bortuzzo's just gonna there's gonna be a spotlight that suddenly comes on Torrey Krug, and Robert Bortuzzo's just gonna be standing behind him like this. So his head's gonna be down here, and he's gonna be standing like this.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be a full on like lopsided hero versus villain anime brawl is what it's going to look like. So yeah, no contest there. Sorry.
It's basically going to be Spider-Man versus Bonesaw from the Spider-Man. Only Bonesaw gets the job done this time. So Bonesaw Bortuzzo moves on. He will take on Vince Dunn in the semifinals. But our first semifinal matchup features Klim Kostin versus the Killer Joshua. This is going to be an interesting one here. Kostin, he's got a track record of fighting, but so does Dakota. They both love to hit. Kostin is 6'3", 212 pounds. Joshua's 6'2", 199. So Kostin's got a little bit of a size advantage. We don't know how Kostin fares against Ryan Reeves whenever they're on the ice together. We do know how Tequila takes care of Ryan Reeves on the ice. Let's go around the horn here on this one. Wags, Tequila or Kostin?
I'm leaning toward Joshua. I really am. I think just because of the experience he has in the NHL level right now, he does have NHL fights. He does have the Ryan Reeves thing. He's got all of that, but it is by the slimmest of margins that I'm going to go with Joshua. I think Costin's going to hold his own in this. I think he's going to make a lot of people think twice about going up against him.
Mhm.
But I think Dakota is going to have just that one punch, and it's going to be enough.
All right, so one vote for Joshua, who, by the way, has beaten Alex Steen, Carl Gunnarsson. Why was he even in this thing? And Tyler Bozak. So he's had a pretty easy pass so far. Costin, of course,
He'll be rested.
Costin being Schwartz, Shen, and Tarasenko to get to this point. Mason, Dakila, or Costin?
This is probably going to be the closest fight of the entire tournament.
Yes.
By far the closest fight.
And entertaining.
A very entertaining semifinal for sure. But no, I agree with Wags there. I do, because I don't think Klim Kostin has the guts to hit Ryan Reeves and then take a fight against Kolesar and win.
Yeah.
Not only did he hit Ryan Reeves, but he fought Kolesar, who is no featherweight himself, and won. That is major respect points there. So that's if he had hit anybody else other than Ryan Reeves, this would probably be going to Klim Kostin. But no, he's got guts. He's got moxie. There's no way it's going to come down to the final punch, but I think at the end of the day, Dakota Joshua's got the punch.
They both have moxie, they both have size, they both have just all the tenacity in the world, but I feel Dakila has that little extra, when you bowl over Reeves like you do, and as you said, Kolesar is probably the Kyle Clifford of today. He just, he's a guy that is always getting into fights, and he's a tough guy, and he's a guy that's to be feared. And Joshua didn't really have much of an issue with him. So I'm gonna go with you guys. I'll say Dakota defeats Klim Kostin in probably the most entertaining fight of this whole tournament.
Yeah,
because those two would just be punching and not really using any tactics whatsoever. Vince Dunn versus Robert Bortuzzo, a battle of defenders. Vince Dunn scoring what might be an upset win over Kyle Clifford last round. He also beat Sammy Blay and Ivan Barbashev, taking on Robert Bortuzzo, who has slayed Torrey Krug, as well as Nico Mikkola and Robert Thomas, probably injuring him again. So here we go. Vince Dunn, Robert Bortuzzo. Vince Dunn, he stands at 6 foot, 203 pounds. Bortuzzo is got 4 inches on him at 6'4", and he also has 216 pounds, so about a 13-pound advantage. I think Dunn deserved to beat Clifford last round just based on where they are now. Clifford's kind of, becoming the old war horse, and kind of he doesn't fight as much as he used to. I think this is where his run ends.
Mm-hmm.
It runs at the end of a fist of Robert Bortuzzo. Wags, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be a fun fight. Vince Dunn's going to go crazy probably early on, but I think Bortuzzo knows he's got the advantage with the height and the weight, that he'll probably let Vince Dunn punch himself out, and then he'll just step back and he'll be like, "You done? You done? You good? All right, boom, you're out." So I think it's going to be Robert Bortuzzo. It's still going to be a fun fight, but it's almost no contest at this point.
Yeah, Mason?
Not really no contest. I think this is a closer fight than people think it would be. But yeah, no, Bortuzzo definitely has it. I mean, the Vince Dunn, like you said, he is going to tire himself out. Bortuzzo's just that hefty of a guy. Bortuzzo, not only can he throw punches, he can take them.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have you seen a Robert Bortuzzo fight and he goes down because of a punch? He goes down because the guy has to throw him down in order to win the fight. You cannot out-punch Robert Bortuzzo and knock him out. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're right. And it's, as you all said, Dunn will make it a fight. He will absolutely do everything he can, but Bortuzzo's been in this. Not only does he have all the size advantage, but he just has the experience, and I think it's going to be too much for Dunn. So Dunn is done. It is the finals now between Dakila Joshua and Robert Bortuzzo. So we have the kid versus the veteran.
Here's what we got to do. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and on 1 we say who wins. All three of us at the same time. Okay? 3, 2, 1.
Joshua.
Really?
I'm going Joshua on this one in something of an upset. It's so weird for a guy like Joshua to have already an established track record like he does of going after Reeves, beating up Colasar. To me, that establishes him. He's the younger guy in this. Size-wise, this is Robert Bortuzzo's really first matchup where he actually matches up size-wise with someone. The kill is 6'2", 200 pounds. Still got a bit of a size advantage, but man, I mean, we have seen Joshua in action, on the ice, and we know what he is capable of. I think Joshua has what it takes to take out Bortuzzo, and apparently some of our listeners do as well. Derek says, I think Joshua over Bortz, maybe unpopular opinion, and Russell Clark says Tequila for the win. So that's my story. Wags, anything to add?
I think you're right on. I think he is a perfect matchup for Robert Bortuzzo, and it's the first test that he has. And sometimes you fail that first test, and it's going to be another close fight for sure. But I think Tequila, gets it in the end. And what a Cinderella story!
What a Cinderella story indeed. And
Cinderella story for fighting.
and Mason, you were going to go with Bortuzzo.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Bortuzzo there. I can see what you guys are saying. Like I said, I totally agree. Dakota cannot speak. Dakota Joshua has got a lot of muscle on him, a lot of moxie on him. I totally agree with you there. I have a hard time counting Bortuzzo out in this fight. It's gonna be a good fight for sure. I think Bortuzzo just barely hashes out this win. I think that Joshua gives him a run for his money. But, I mean, it is a big height difference. It is a big experience difference. But you might be right. I mean, Bortuzzo is getting up there in age. Dakota Joshua is still young in his career. He can always put on more muscle. But, I think it comes down to – I really do think it comes down to experience. When, you're in the freaking finals and you want to win. And – he's just had so much more experience because fighting in the junior leagues versus fighting in the major leagues, the NHL, it's a totally different ball game. So that's kind of why I have Bortuzzo in that spot. But I mean, having Dakota Joshua as the winner doesn't bother me in the least bit.
Well, congratulations to Tequila Joshua. Your grand prize is you get to beat up Zach Sanford in practice. That's
your other grand prize. Your other grand prize is we get to interview you.
Maybe I would love to do that if maybe the Blues weren't so stingy about letting us interview their players. Excuse me. But anyway, yeah, but someday we'll be big enough to get the big ones. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Bluenotes. That is going to do it for the St. Louis Blues 2020-21 campaign. Any final thoughts? Mason, you jumped in late. What's any final thoughts?
I'm disappointed and sad. I mean, I'm glad that we got to end it on kind of a fun note, with the Bare Knuckle Blues bracket. And thank you, Wags, for that awesome idea. It was freaking bravo, buddy, bravo.
I get one a year.
It was a great idea. How many? I haven't heard of any other team doing something anywhere close to that. So that's always that's always nice to end it on a nice note. I mean. People are going to watch this video, and I guarantee you I'm going to get at least 3 comments on it that are going to say, if you hate this team so much, why do you root for them? I do not hate this team. No. Let me tell you, I do not hate this team. I hate what they do on the ice sometimes. I do not hate. It's like a child. It's like when you have your 6-year-old kid, you come home and you notice your prize vase is broken. Your mother's ashes are scattered on the floor.
Oh,
or they're cleaning the toilet with your toothbrush, or you getting a Sharpie and they're painting all over your door. Yeah, you hate what the kid did, but you love the kid. I think that's how we all feel about the St. Louis Blues right now. We all Love this team.
Well, wait until you hear what he did with Grandma's ashes. Wags, final thoughts.
Like I said earlier, I think we went into this season with a little bit higher expectations than we probably should have had, and we should be lucky that we got as far as we did. I'm really anxious to see what changes are made in the offseason. And, over on Crunch Time, we had the campaign for Nolan Arenado. I think what we need to do here is we need to have the campaign for Matthew Tkachuk. We need to find a way to get Matthew Tkachuk to St. Louis. Maybe we create some T-shirts. Maybe we get some people involved. But let's do Bluenotes for Tkachuk and see what happens.
Or whatever the show will be named going forward.
We'll get there.
Hint, hint. I'm personally, and this is probably going to sound unpopular, and I might get the same commenters that Blues Fan Reacts gets on this, but I'm relieved.
Me too.
I thought this was going to happen when the Blues went to the first round, and whether it was going to be Vegas, whether it was going to be the Avs, they just did not have it this year. And it was very evident as the season went on. They literally are only in this spot because the rest of the division sucked and they didn't want it. Arizona flirted with them for a little while, and that was fun, but they didn't have it either. And I think, any Arizona fan could tell you they just didn't have it. LA didn't have it. San Jose didn't have it. Anaheim didn't even have a fucking clue this year where that was.
What are we doing?
Exactly.
You gotta give him credit though. They did let Backus play in his final game here in St. Louis. So
nice
at least they had that.
That was classy.
Good for that. That was very classy of them.
Yeah, very classy. I have nothing against the Anaheim Ducks organization. They also handled things very well when Jay Bouwmeester had his episode. They were very classy throughout all that as well. Much respect to the Anaheim Ducks organization. Really, you guys are okay. But the Blues, this is going to be an off season of change that I think we all saw during the season needed to happen, and we're just going to sit back and enjoy or lament what is done.
We're going to embrace it regardless, whether we love or hate it. We're going to embrace it because we're going to have to.
Put it this way: whenever, assuming free agency starts July 1st, which I don't think it will, because I think
it's going to be earlier than that.
Okay, I'm not sure how quickly the Stanley Cup playoffs are going to plow through here, but on the first day of free agency, we're not going to hear the St. Louis Blues fans going, "Oh, Doug Armstrong didn't sign anyone. It's the same old Blues every year." Blah blah. They're going to be signing some people on day one.
They're going to have to. They don't have a choice.
They're going to be trading some players. I mean, not only that, but it's like for the first time in a long time, the Blues have actual cap space. They're going to have about...
They can do so many things. There are so many things they can do. How much do they have? Like $18 million or something.
Yeah, if Schwartz walks, it's $18 million. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a Connor McDavid and a Jesse Puljujarvi. That's enough.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna say fuck Tkachuk, and we're just gonna say, hey, let's rescue McDavid. Is that what
I'm just saying?
Okay. Hey, dream big. I love that. Dream big. Well, again, in case you've just joined us a little while ago, we're going to have a special episode on Tuesday night featuring former St. Louis Blue Lubos Bartechko, and then a big announcement about the future of this very show. I'll say this: we're not going away.
No.
We're going to be going away for a while, but we're not going away. And sometimes, like a snake, you just have to shed your skin and start anew. So that's basically what's coming up going forward. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for listening and watching, because without you, there is no me, there is no Wags, there is no Mason, and there is no Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Tom Franklin, reminding you to not be a chump. And what do we do, Wags?
Always play to the whistle.
You gosh darn tootin' right.
A reminder that you can follow Bluenotes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bluenotes Pod. I'm the voice of the Blues, Tom Calhoun. Jeremy Boyer, play us out.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL. New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.
All right. Okay, Google. Golf courses near me.